let me introduce to you Ondřej Krůza. Oldřich, no vidíte, ani jméno nevím. Oldřich Krůza, who one of our students, members of the institute, of our institute, who will give you a talk, again, I must say, second in the row, so to say, on speech. You can read the title from the whiteboard, so I don't need to read it. And now it's your turn.
Thank you. I'll hide it again. So I'm going to talk about my PhD thesis. I'm in the first year on the postgrad. So it just started. The official English version of my PhD topic is iteratively improving transcription of speech recordings, exploiting feedback from listeners. This implies that I have some recordings, and that those recordings have listeners. So that's what I'm building on. And my ambition is to create a high-quality, complete transcription of those recordings into text. The basic idea is that I have an automatic speech recognition system, and the users, or the listeners I spoke about, these will produce some transcription. The users will notice the errors and will submit corrections, and the ASR will use those corrections to improve its model. So I hope to iterate and converge quickly to the desired high-quality complete transcription. So let me first elaborate on the data that I have on the recordings. A few years ago, a friend of mine approached me, holding a CD in the hands, and told me it's worth listening to. I took her word, I listened to it, and I was immediately fascinated. I wanted to know if there was more, and indeed there was more. An impressive archive of recordings on magnetic tapes, basically stored in the living room of an apartment in Zlín, which is a town in Czech Republic, in Moravia. And some of those recordings were over 40 years old. Now, the expected lifetime of magnetic tape recording is about 30 years. So, I was horrified. So this is just destined to vanish, and I knew I can't let this happen. So this is how I took up the task of saving this material and making it available. I think this would be a good time to play back a sample. This is actually the start of the CD I talked about. This is the first thing that I heard as well.
Historie systému lásky, ať se konkrétně vypadá jakkoliv, platí, že tam není vším to, co dělám. Nýbrž důležitou složkou je také to, co nedělám. Když podobnost je v klepání. Klepání je podobno dělat, nedělat. Systému dělat, nedělat. Systému samočinného počítače 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. Já žiju ve dvojnosti. Všechno v ní pulzuje. A také tento systém, který z dvojnosti.
These words were spoken by Karel Makoň. Karel Makoň was a Czech mystic born in 1912, on December 12. Actually, rumor has it that it was at 12 o'clock, 12 minutes, but I don't have it verified. He is the author of 27 books on spirituality and mysticism, and he also translated 28 books and commented them. His own books comprise in pure text about 20 megabytes, and those translations just about 6 megabytes, which is funny, but it must be because of the fact that some of his books comprise several volumes. Apart from writing, he gave talks. He started his career as a spiritual teacher, actually in a concentration camp. In 1939, he was a student of the economical university, and also at the Faculty of Arts, where he studied Eastern philosophy. But yeah, he kind of turned his focus on Christian symbolism, and since that time he devoted his life to spreading the knowledge that he had. And a group of apprentices or followers formed around him, and starting in the late 60s, they were recording his talks. Back then they recorded it on reel tapes. This is the device I used for digitizing it. And in the course of the 70s, they switched over to cassettes. Now, this is the toy. This is actually made in China. This is made in Czechoslovakia. This ended in 1992 when he ceased to give talks. He died 1 year later in 1993. The whole corpus in its digitized form, it's not quite complete yet, but almost complete, comprises about 53 gigabytes. In MP3, 128 kilobytes per second, which is about 1,000 hours. The talks were given regularly, as far as I know, every second weekend, partially in Zlín, partially in Plzeň, and then every year they had longer sessions, like 2-week sessions. The reels are pretty unidentifiable with respect to producer. It's just, because you have a tape on a reel like this, so you can't really track down where it's Sony or whatever. But they took recording at a speed of 9 centimeters per second, which is quite okay. And that's probably why even the oldest reel tapes retained much of their quality. The cassettes were mostly Sony, TDK, Fuji. Basically, they bought the highest end technology they had available. But sometimes, when heading to a session, they took a suitcase full of cassettes with them, and then Karl Makoň had such inhuman endurance that they simply ran out of them. So they had to drive quickly to the nearest town and to buy new ones, but there they just had MGeton, the low-end Czech production cassettes, and those recordings on MGeton didn't retain the quality quite as much. Unfortunately, I don't know right now which recordings are on which type, but it can be tracked down. Yeah, so the quality does not decrease with time linearly. Instead, it seems to be mostly influenced by the acoustic conditions at the time of recording and what devices were used. So now I'll give you a few short samples from across the corpus. This is the oldest recording with an exact date given. It's from August 29, 1970.
Pravili se s tím to, že jsem vlastně natrénoval takzvanou správnou smrt. To znamená smrt, při které se přechází do věčného života.
This one is from the middle. It's the first cassette from the year 1983.
Tady je vedle toho, co jsem řekl, zařízení genetické, které působí mechanicky. Já se zcela bez přímého svého přičinění stávám čím dál oddělenější bytosti, to znamená s pocitem větší oddělenosti.
This is one of the newest one. It's the first from 1992.
Ta myšlenka o sebespáse, jako taková myšlenka sobecká nebyla správná. Tak on je veden nesobeckosti, pomáhání. Když mu bez hledu na sebe, se z toho nemohl nic víc. Naopak, když se to nepodařilo, tak to ještě vyšlo.
You can hear that the quality varies, but his speech seems to be pretty consistent across those 25 years, 22. But sometimes he speaks really slowly.
Láska jako citové zaujetí. A on mluvil pro prostého člověka. Samozřejmě chytem jít k Bohu vyžaduje nějaké konstantní zaměření citové.
Sometimes he jabbers really.
17 do těch 17 nebo 13 roků, ne? A půl. Jsem jednal správně.
Some recordings are damaged, like this one that has increased speed.
Chtěl ten hospodář na těch úřednících, aby mysleli na hospodáře, když měli těmi významy hospodáři. Neříkal, myslete na mě. Už neříkal, myslete na to, a jak byste vydělali na těch dřívnách, abyste dobře hospodářili. Já přijdu a budu s vámi účtovat.
Some were even digitized erroneously, like this one that is heavily clipped.
Tak já nemám právo, aby tam mě myslel, že on nemyslí lidsky a nejedná, ale
so I said that the whole thing takes up about 1,000 hours. The people who were taking these recordings were aware that it's a lot of material, and they invested genuine effort into bringing structure in it, and they did it in the form of making manual indexes, going through each recording and writing down the position on the counter of the device and the topic that's being covered. I can show this to you. I photographed those. So, like this one. Yeah. See, it's always the The tracks are denoted by colors. This is the topic of the whole recording, place and date, and now you have positions on the device counter and what he's talking about. This is about 90 minutes, yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, through 15 you can compute. The little complication is that it doesn't increase linearly with time. It's actually, it increases linearly with the spins of the reel. So you have to apply a quadratic function. But I haven't interpolated the exact parameters for it, so I can't show you here. I could use binary searching though. These indexes were made for reels that were indexed by a letter. We have 26 letters in the alphabet. I don't think they had letters like Ch. So, all in all, these indexes cover 76 files, because every reel has multiple tracks, out of the total of 1096. So you see, they lost patience, and we just have these for really a fraction. Okay, so that's about it for the data. Now about what I'm going to do. Try this again. So the system that I'm developing is this architecture. So the first step is to obtain the initial transcription using automatic speech recognition. Second step is to make a web application where a user will be able to listen to the recordings and see the transcription in the form of subtitles. Now the user will notice the errors in the transcription, if there are any, and will correct them. Now this will be sent back to the server, added to the training data, and also, of course, directly saved into the subtitles, so that only the uncorrected subtitles will be regenerated. So now it's about the first step, about the transcription. This proved to be a little more tricky than I had expected. I tried using HTK, which is the HMMS toolkit, with the acoustic model trained on 6 minutes of the audio that I transcribed. For language model, I used those 26 megabytes of text that Karl Marconi wrote. This amounts to 3.6 million word positions. I don't think it's that little. Anyway, the result was about 90% word error rate. So really, one big error. That's not something you can really use with this. So I tried several things. First, I tried to expand the the training data from 6 to 15 minutes. Didn't really help. Then I tried, in the transcription, you always had words like Lao or, I don't know, names and things that come up in the text. And I think he wrote a book about Lao Tzu. So that's a book where this name will occur a lot. And so I thought maybe the language model is heavily biased toward these words. So I tried, these are his writings. I tried to split them and to filter out words that occur a lot only in one part. Didn't help. Third thing I tried was to use the language model trained on another corpus on PDT. Didn't help either. And then I tried the acoustic model from CUCFN, which is Charles University Corpus of Financial News, trained on 12 hours of speech spoken by several speakers. I tried also to adapt this model on the voice of Karl McCoy. Indeed, the output was different, but still, the accuracy didn't rise much. So I hope that this is just because I made an omission and I have a bug in my script chain. This would be, the best solution to this. If not, if it's because of the characteristics of the data, then, well, let's see if I have to make some fundamental changes into my architecture. Yeah. The second step, the web interface. I can show the current version to you. This is really just a prototype now. It's not really, I'm not really content with it. You can choose the file. This is the one for which I have the subtitles generated, right? Yeah. This is also a demonstration of the transcription. So the main part probably of the web interface is the player. I had an easy work with that because I delegated it on JPlayer, which is a library for jQuery, where jQuery is again a general JavaScript programming library. The interesting part is that it uses the native audio HTML element where HTML5 is available in the browser, and where not, it falls back to Flash. So right now there's no difference between HTML5 enabled browsers and not, but there will likely be, because I'm planning to make to show the waveform, and it's easy to do it with HTML5. I'm not going to program for Flash now. So the second interesting part of the web interface is actually this, where the subtitles are displayed. How it looks like. This is the winner of three options that I was considering. The first option would be something like a marquee. If you know the HTML element marquee, or if you watch news and down there there's one line of text running. So you would have one line of text and it would run horizontally. But it looks annoying because it's moving all the time. And it's moving constantly, but it's moving in a non-constant speed because you have to keep it synchronized, and it doesn't speak, with a constant speed. Second problem is that you want to be able to select an erroneous part, and if you just press just a one line, you can have too little context. And it's also not configurable with respect to how much text is displayed at the moment. So yeah, I didn't use it. Second option would have been subtitles, like with a movie, one phrase at a time, and disappears a new phrase. Again, similar drawbacks. If you want to correct something that spans several subtitles, it's difficult. It would have been solvable, but yeah. This one, I think, is good in the way that it's similar to reading normal static text. It doesn't move and just scrolls lines. The problem with this one is that it's a little computationally intense because for the highlighting I have to dedicate an HTML element for each word. So if you display a lot of them at once, the browser locks and is unresponsive. And if you have like this much, it's noticeable. It's like maybe a second. Yeah. So the compromise is that I just use 3 lines, which also results in the fact that it's never difficult to find where the highlighted word is. Yep. Now, what's happening on the server? I put as much as possible from the server to the client and to content delivery network. So the server is pretty much only responsible for processing the submissions from the user, the corrections. I'll show you how it works, but only on the front end again. So here he said, nebo činy nijak, jsem říkal, nejvyšší tvůrčí silou je láska k bližnímu, ne? So let's make it happen. Puf. Nijak jsem říkal, nejvyšší tvůrčí silou je láska k bližnímu. Ne? If the text area loses focus, and saved. Why did it take so much? Because when the correction comes to the server, the start position, the timestamp and the end timestamp are sent. The file in question is sent. Its name, not the file itself, and the new text. Now, if we play it.
Jakým půlcem já jsem způsobil, jak se tam poučit způsobem dřív, nebo činí já jsem říkal, největší tvůrčí silou je láska k bližnímu, ne?
You can see that the system already knows where each word is. So what happened on the server is that forced alignment was applied on the new text with the audio. He cuts off the chunk of audio, tries to recognize it where he already knows what the transcription is, and if he finds that the probability or that is too low, he rejects it. If it's okay, then the alignment is there. This is a side effect of providing protection from spam and from vandalism. If someone is in something nonsensical. It succeeded, which shouldn't have happened. Yeah? It's a little similar to what he said. Okay. Let's try it a different way. I'll take this one and try to put it somewhere else. Poof. Didn't succeed. Yeah. I think I'll have to raise the threshold. So this is one way how I already deal with possible errors in the submissions. More subtle errors. Well, when it comes, I'll have to solve it. But I am to a certain extent prepared. What I can do now is to simply track which correction comes from which user, because then, users tend to be to a certain degree consistent. Now, you see that we have a kind of collaborative work on a piece of data. Wikipedia has this as well. And Wikipedia has to deal with conflicts. If two people edit one article at the same time, they have to present an interactive dialogue. If there are conflicts, deal with it. The good thing about my setting is that I don't need to worry about this, because the submissions are kind of additive. What I mean by this, assuming that all submissions are correct. If two people, put overlapping or submit overlapping submissions, then the first one is applied, and then the second one overrides the overlapping part. No problem. This is assuming that the submissions are correct. But if I don't assume that, I don't have to let the users edit it. The data are stored on a content delivery network. Right now I'm using Google Storage for Developers, not only for the audio, but also for the subtitles. So the subtitles are stored in JSON-P, which stands for JSON with padding, which is a technique how you can ask for data from the browser from a server that's on a different domain. You can't do it with standard AJAX because you have the same origin policy. It basically works like that you don't. I'm always looking for the pen. You don't just have the JSON on the server, but you have it wrapped in a function. So then you simply add a script element with the desired source, and you can't specify any callback, but this is where you have it. So it comes from a different server. So this is a good thing that if this is ever hosted on a server of the institute, we don't have to store 50 gigabytes there. Not that the subtitles would have 50 gigabytes. One bad thing about HTML5 and about the audio element is that every browser supports a different format. So, well, I probably have to double it and to store it redundantly in MP3 and in OGG Vorbis. But that's how life is. Yeah. Right now, the user chooses what they want to transcribe. But, you know, many people are open to suggestions. So this makes it possible to actually select the best training data that we could get, because it's not just about how much training data you have. Some recordings, have pretty high confidence measure. Is that some lower? So it's good to give those data to the user that the transcription of which will help us the most. This has not been used in many systems as far as I know, but it's well described, and I'm very much looking forward to implementing this. Another thing I could do is since the recordings were taken, like 10 hours with that device, then another 10 hours with another device. So an option would be to adapt the model to every nuance, not every single, but like if I have a consistent chunk, a longer chunk, nothing forces me to use one single acoustic or, for that matter, language model to transcribe the whole bulk. And for the language model, it makes sense because he covers a topic every time. So if he covers, Saint Teresa, the word Teresa should have a high probability there. Of course, it would be challenging to find the chunks themselves. Now, one of the conditions that Dr. Kuboin had, before he agreed to be my tutor for this work, was that it has to work not only with the corpus of Karel Makoň, which is my private objective, but on any data. So what are the considerations or possibilities or problems with using the emerging system with new data? Of course, the algorithms are data agnostic. It doesn't check if it's Karel Makoň, so it should kind of work. But one problem with the front end would be that it simply assumes you are as a user ever only interested in one file. So if you try to use it for data that is split like one file per sentence, it will need modifications. The ASR will also likely have to be modified for each new data set. But I promise that this will not be too difficult in the end, because I have to experiment with many ASRs right now, so it will likely be nicely pluggable. So let's see if I skipped something. Yeah. I think I exhausted my topic. So if you have questions, I will be happy to try to answer them.
I expect you to have some questions.
Just a small question. It's more technical.
Always. Contributor.
Please, if you select some part of this text, it's possible to replay just this part, or
I plan this. It's definitely something that should be there. I want to keep the interface as thin as possible. I want there to be as few controls as possible, because the people that are interested in these recordings are not youngest. They are in their 80s, some in their 40s, and not all of them are very computer savvy. So, since they have the goodwill to help me, my interest is to make it as simple as possible. But my idea is that if you select something and press play, it will just play the selected part. And maybe, if you select something, it should also be easy to tweak the span. So that's why I was thinking about the waveform and scroll bars. But let's see. I definitely have to spend a few good hours with the interface.
Yeah, I have another question towards the interface. I was wondering, I can see here only 3 lines, but the whole tape has about 90 minutes, so how are you going to move?
You can, once again, please?
Okay, well, the whole tape has about 90 minutes, right?
Yes.
But I can see only 3 lines, and these 3 lines can hardly represent those 90 minutes. How can you scroll within this?
One warning, I made additions, and I didn't really test the scrolling with the editations made, so I may have to reload. Yeah. And if you seek, you're there. Huh?
Okay. So basically, it means that the current position or the beginning of
the current position is.
When you start to type, what is the alignment, type alignment of what you are typing?
If you start to type, well, you first have to select something that you want to correct.
Mm-hmm.
Nie všechno ruší, jo? Nie všechno ruší. So now I'm starting to type, and he knows that it's the timestamp of this word and the timestamp of this word.
So okay, I see. So you assume that everything is going to be recognized first. So
yes.
You will be always correcting words which are already aligned first.
Yes. Yes, this is not yet meant to be a transcription system from 0 to transcription, but from bad transcription to good transcription.
So you think it is not going to happen that you will have some speech and it won't have any transcription from SR?
Right now, I'm not solving this task. Yeah? It may come. I don't think the modification would be that hard. I just would have to replace it with maybe with something representing the waveform. Mm-hmm. Possibilities are, and no, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Just one question. What about foreign words or different, some hard spellings?
Yes.
Pronunciations?
when the submission is sent, I'm working with a dictionary consisting of just the sent words. Yeah? So if you have something like, what do I know, Jorge, then if you put the correct Spanish spelling, chances are that it will be rejected, because it doesn't think that it should be read Jorge. My way or my plan how to deal with it is that the user will have to type in the check phonetic transcription, and then let's see if it succeeds. I hope not. No. Now the user can display, the info about the word, and this is not yet editable, but it will be editable, and the pronunciation should stay, but then he will simply edit the word form. That's one way how it could be solved.
So my question is simple. What will be the motivation for the users to work with the system and to help you with the data?
What is their motivation? Yes. Yeah. Well, they're basically the rest of the community around the speaker. So it's they invested half of their lives into making this archive and making it, and now it's not even they know in which file he covered which topic. So for it to have a good transcription, thus the possibility to search through it is their interest. I know that there always a risk that they promise to help, but hopefully it will work.
This is not part of your project, then, the searchable database of the texts. This is like a follow-up of.
Oh well, if you have a good transcription, we have tools to search through text. I don't think we will then need new machinery. It's not like with Malach where they have 116,000 hours spoken by tens of thousands of speakers. They can't even think of aiming to a complete high quality transcription, and even if they did, as much as they say that their interest is to make the data available, they are keeping it proprietary, and they just give it to avail on certain terminals. Now, the licensing of this material is not yet fixed, but I hope that it will enter the public domain. And if not, then it will still be available online. It's actually already available now. I can't show it to you because I'm offline, but it's basically the same thing, but now without the subtitles. I don't want to show anybody this yet. I don't know. I'm hosting this on the Google Storage for developers, and they don't enable using the root, so you have to type index.html. It's Makoň FM Radio Makoň.
I do have a question, but it's probably not for you, and it's maybe to the colleagues who are more experienced. Is that common for ASR to fail this spectacularly? Like the horrible the word error rate you told us, the 90% of word error rate.
Well, my answer is I'm a beginner in speech recognition, and I definitely hope for better. And I definitely hope that it's a simple programmatic error that I did somewhere.
Because some of the words were actually recognized to be similar, and that's danger. That looks
exactly. That's my fear as well. Yeah.
It seems that HTK is not. It's famous that it's not good for general speech recognition. It's not fast, but for offline recognition it should be better than these results. I think there is some mistake training script, so there is large hope that HTK is very good for training, preparation of models and for this iterate force alignment. But for real speech recognition, I think we should prepare some ASR with another framework that is more oriented now for general speech recognition with a large vocabulary and with a general grammatic or some statistical model. So this work is not lost because HTK will be included in the system, but the ASR part should be redone.
Any further questions? Well, if not, so we can only wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Both in improving the results and in developing this kind of architecture. It's only that you assume it. You assume that there's an input to ASR. I mean, ASR here is a kind of something which you presuppose to be done before the whole circle starts. Is it so?
I'm planning to use something that's ready to use. I'm not developing an ASR on my own. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation and for the experts' comments and questions. I have one bad news, which is that we don't have this extra seminar on Friday, planned for Friday, because Ivan Sack cannot come to Europe for health reasons, unfortunately. But we do have, and that's good news, we do have this seminar next Monday with Mark Steedman, and I would be very happy if you or some of your colleagues, if you can just advertise, so to say, that Mark and his wife Bonnie Werber will be here on Monday from 10 onwards, so to say. I think that only you had subscribed to meet Mark Steedman at 10, but it would be too bad if there is only one person to talk to him. So, please ask people to come and to look at Doodle, because it's still open, so you can still subscribe or fill in some slot there. Okay, so thank you very much, and hope to see you on Monday morning and then on Monday afternoon. Thank you.